Hello and welcome to the second lecture for Unit 2. The overall focus for this lecture is leadership and communication to establish sound interpersonal relationships. In this PowerPoint, we will be looking at the following aspects of communication. Number 1, what is communication? 2, the aim of effective communication. 3, the communication process, which includes the communication model and the direction of communication channels. 4, communication media, which includes non-verbal communication, verbal communication, and information technology. Lastly, number 5, we will be looking at communication skills. Let us start by looking at what is communication. We can all agree that in a school context, effective management leadership depends on constant and open communication between the principal and all the relevant stakeholders. Communication can be defined as a message conveying information from one person, called the sender, to another person who receives the message, called the recipient, and this can take place either verbally or non-verbally. The ultimate aim of communication is to elicit a certain behavioral response from the recipient or recipients. This response will then lead to task execution, which is an integral part of the communication process in the workplace. Behavioral responses may include thinking, talking, listening, observing, and taking action. Please take the time to watch the YouTube video on ECI of how the communication process works, and match the explanations on page 201 in Fundamenta with components of the communication model shown in the diagram on this slide. As educators, we can all agree that there are hierarchical structures of authority that exist in schools. From the top down, this is made up of the principal, deputy principal, heads of departments, subject heads, and educators. There also exists auxiliary or support services, the staff of whom cannot be involved in policy making and decision making, but are there to offer specialized help, for example, educational psychologists and social workers. Every school therefore has to have formal channels of communication that are known to educators, and these are the downward, upward, horizontal, and diagonal channel. The downward channel is characterized by the line of authority that exists in a school. An example here is when the principal or member of the SMT explains policies and procedures to educators to ensure effective teaching. Often, the downward channel is used to communicate decisions that have been made without consulting the rest of the school body. For the upward channel, communication starts on the lower levels in the hierarchy and flows upwards to the principal and the SMT. It establishes whether downward communication has been received, interpreted correctly, and accepted by the staff. It also provides managers with information about how the staff feel about their jobs, co-workers, and the organization in general. Horizontal communication takes place between people on the same level of the school organizational structure. An example of this is a meeting of grade 4 educators to coordinate activities and plan assessments for the term. This type of communication is important because it serves to encourage teamwork and build better interpersonal relationships. Diagonal channels involves communication between school staff and support services. For example, an educational psychologist offering specialized advice to grade 1 educators on how to deal with children that are attention deficit. Nonverbal communication refers to components other than words, such as body language, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and eye contact, that also generates meaning. When there is conflict between verbal and nonverbal communication, people may use nonverbal communication to interpret the true meaning. Nonverbal communication also includes vocal cues, such as the pitch, speed, and volume of your voice. Think about how much can be revealed by a raised eyebrow, a furrowed brow, a slouched posture, and even animated hand movements. It's important for teachers to be aware of their nonverbal clues and consider how it impacts on what they are trying to say. Something like direct eye contact in Western cultures may display honesty and confidence, whereas in some African cultures, this may be viewed as a sign of disrespect. We can all agree that in a school setting, verbal communication is used far more often than any other medium of communication. Think about the time you spent at a school during teaching practice. You would have mainly used verbal communication to communicate with the learners, other staff members, the principal, and even parents. One of the ways in which early humans communicated was through the use of sound. So verbal communication is the most natural and simple medium of communication. Over and above this, verbal communication has a large number of advantages, including the fact that it makes questioning possible. In this way, if the receiver of a message is unsure of anything, this can be immediately clarified. However, verbal communication also presents certain disadvantages, the biggest of which is that often the message is not permanently recorded. Please take the time to go over the other advantages and disadvantages on this slide. Electronic and technological factors have influenced communication to a very large extent, even to the degree where printed communication has become obsolete. Please take the time to read page 207 of your textbook and think about the effect of information technology on the communication process and how information technology has influenced the way in which principals communicate at a school. Also, please read page 208 and answer the question, how can emails be used effectively by manager leaders in a school? As future educators, you will all at some point or the other be involved in a one-on-one meeting with a parent. Here are some guidelines to help you improve your listening skills. The first and last rule when listening is to stop talking. Do not make any judgments or decisions until the person has finished talking. Do not become emotionally upset during a meeting. Remember to pay full attention and ensure that there are no distractions. Switch off your cell phone, for example. Show patience and be aware of your body language. A parent should not feel that they are being rushed to complete the meeting. Let us now consider 5 techniques to improve listening skills. Number 1, convey empathy. This means try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. When communicating with an irate parent, try using the phrase, "I appreciate your position," to show that you are trying to understand their viewpoint. Number 2, repetition. This involves repeating the speaker's words to show that the information has been understood. Number 3, paraphrasing. This involves restating the speaker's message in your own words to confirm that you understand the speaker's viewpoint. Number 4, summarize. This looks at highlighting the key ideas that can be used to focus the discussion. For example, using the words, "So we have agreed to the following." And lastly, number 5, questioning. The use of words such as "what" can be useful in gaining information from a parent. For example, if a parent is complaining that his or her child has been unfairly punished, consider asking the question, what do you think should have been the punishment for your child in that situation? Written communication is the second most important medium of communication in a school. As future educators, you will be corresponding with parents and other stakeholders by means of written communication. Simplicity and clarity are the 2 most important factors in written communication. Various other factors should be taken into account when planning written communication. Number 1, choose words carefully. It is absolutely important that the language is accurate and correct as they reflect the image of the school. Number 2, use simple words. Long, incomprehensible words increase the chance of misunderstanding. Number 3, use words with a concrete rather than an abstract meaning. For example, replace the abstract phrase, "She is a good learner," with the concrete phrase, "She achieved an 80% average overall." Number 4, use words sparingly. Avoid long, complicated sentences and definitions. Please look at the example provided in your textbook to further your understanding of this point. And lastly, use positive words which convey courtesy. For example, the statement, "I am not available on Thursday, 20th May," reflects a negative phrasing of words. Changing it to, "I am available on Friday, 21st May," shows a positive phrasing of words.